Hello everyone. Today we will start course 203, that is School and Inclusive School, in which we will see the first unit, Concept and Nature of Inclusive Education. So, as we all know that education is not only a fundamental right but also been declared as one of the human right. This is clearly means that every child has the basic right to education. Obviously, each and every child should get admitted to the school who has to take care of imparting education to the child. The teacher who has take the responsibility on his or her shoulder. We as a teacher know that each and every child is unique, and so the education we imparted should be meaningful. You know that every child is unique, so can you identify few areas of uniqueness? I think you have rightly pointed out the areas like physical, psychological, intellectual, emotional and social, so on. Children exhibits varied characteristics, interest, abilities, aptitudes, attitudes and learning needs. Though the teacher think and assume that it is a homogeneous group of learners, in fact it is a heterogeneous group. We as a teacher consider the group as heterogeneous based on their uniqueness. Then the big question of teacher is how to consider their diversified needs. So the solution is inclusive education. So in today's session we will know about what is inclusion, concept of inclusive education, aims and objectives of inclusive education, purpose of inclusive education, nature of inclusive education. So let us start with aims of inclusive education. Education for all, protection of rights, identification of skills, development of social consciousness to prepare for new challenges, development of brotherhood to improve the quality of education. So, according to their ability, disability, languages, cultural background. So, despite of their ability, disability, languages, cultural background, gender, age, sexual orientation, every child has to right to take the proper education, or main aim of inclusive education to provide the quality education. Let us see the objectives of inclusive education. Recognizing the rights of the learner, increasing the learning and participation of all learners, minimizing all forms of exclusion, maintaining mutual relationships between school and communities, recognizing that inclusion in education is only one aspect of inclusion in society. Let us see the introduction about inclusive education. Some children feel left out and never enter school or enter only a few years, and as repeaters become dropouts or more correctly pushed out. A school system emphasizing education for all should ensure the right of all children to a meaningful education based on individual needs and abilities. So, around the world, children are excluded from school because of disabilities, abilities, race, language, religion, gender, socio-economic status, learning disabilities, etc. But every child has to right to be supported by parents and communities to grow, learn and develop in early years, and upon reaching school age to go to school and be welcomed and included by teachers and peers alike. When all children, regardless of their differences, are educated together, this is the cornerstone of inclusive education. Let us see the meaning of inclusive education. Inclusion means that all people, regardless of their abilities, disabilities, health care needs, have the right to be respected and appreciated as valuable member of their communities. Participate in recreational activities in neighborhood setting. Inclusion builds the premises that all people should be valued for their unique abilities and included as essential members of the community. Inclusion is not a place or practice, it is a way of thinking. So the term inclusive education refers to education of all children without discrimination of attainment, gender or disabilities into the regular school. It is about minimizing the exclusion or fostering participation for all children in the culture within a wider framework of support of all children in ordinary school. It is all about disabilities have equal opportunity to participate in activities. It is based on the principle of equalization of educational opportunities. Let us see the definition of inclusive education. Inclusive education is about how we develop and design our school, classrooms, programs, activities so that all students learn and participate together. Inclusive education is defined as a learning environment that promotes the full personal and professional development of all learners, irrespective of race, class, color, gender, disabilities, sexual preferences, learning styles and languages, etc. Inclusive education means providing all students within the mainstream appropriate educational programs. Inclusion is not a set of strategies or placement issue. Inclusion is about belonging to community, a group of friends, a school community or a neighborhood community. Let us see the concept of inclusive education. Physical inclusion, social inclusion and cognitive inclusion. In physical inclusion, a disabled child receives consistent promotion, support and facilitation from the government. All the policies and government regulation have made education free and compulsory for all children. No institution can deny admission to the child with disability on account of his or her disability. It will entail universal enrollment, retention and achievement. What is social inclusion? It refers to acceptance of a person with disability by all the sections of society in lower socio-economic strata. Researches indicate that there is a greater acceptance of person with disability with minimum expectation from them, whereas people from economical upper and high expectation from person with disability. Let us see the cognitive inclusion. Cognitive inclusion refers to education of disabled children in general classroom with non-disabled children. Cognitive inclusion is possible only if the subject matter is broken down into smaller learning units and teacher makes sure that each of the micro units of a lesson is learned by all the children expected level of their mastery. Each child is given equal opportunity to learn, appropriate time and appropriate manner. Inclusive education as defined by National Curriculum Framework 2005. Disability is a social responsibility. No selection procedures to be adopted for denying admission to the learner with disabilities accept difference and elaborate diversity. Remove social, physical and attitudinal barriers. Partnership is our strength, such as school, community, school teacher, children, teachers, parents, school system and outside system. All good practices of teaching are practices of inclusion. Learning together is beneficial for every child. Support services are essential services. These points are given by NCF 2005 about inclusive education. Let us see the purposes of inclusive education. The purpose of an inclusive education system to provide all students with the most appropriate learning environments and opportunities for them. Best achieve their potential. All children can learn and reach their full potential given opportunities, effective teaching and appropriate resources. Inclusive education is a system of education that provides all children, regardless of their physical, intellectual, social, emotional, linguistic or other conditions. The range of challenges confronting the school system, while including children with diverse abilities and from diverse backgrounds, have to be met by creating child-centered pedagogy capable of successfully educating all children. So this is all about purpose of inclusive education. Aspects of successful inclusion. According to Weber, in 1997 identified 5 essential features that characterize successful inclusion of students with special needs: a sense of community and social acceptance, an appreciation of student diversity, attention to curricular needs, effective management and instruction, and personal support and collaboration. Active, meaningful participation in the inclusive setting, sense of belonging, and shared ownership among faculty. These are aspects of successful inclusion. According to Weber, we can make inclusion happen by removing physical barriers posed by stairs, doorways, toilet, water, and other architectural aspects imperative to accessing facilities in the school, removing the barrier of teaching system by providing facilities for accessing information related to the curriculum by the use of modern technology like computer, using specialized software, by providing awareness, sensitivity, and solution for teachers. Removing the barrier of the examination system by providing means of free and fair evaluation of the student knowledge, removing the barriers of examination system by providing means of free and fair evaluation of the student's knowledge irrespective of his and her sensory and physical status, removing the barrier of attitude developed due to the lack of awareness. So these are some points by which we can make inclusion happen. Let us see the role of teacher. Students with disability who are included in general education classroom are not always automatically accepted by their non-disabled peers. As a result, it is the teacher's responsibility to promote this acceptance. In addition to facilitating acceptance, teacher must also implement instructional strategies that can be used to support inclusion. For example, responses to intervention, cooperative learning, peer support, strategy, instruction, and self-determination strategies. For example, project making, drawing competition, allocation competition, etc. So these was all about the concept of inclusion, meaning of inclusion, and nature of inclusion. So in my next session we will see need and importance of inclusive education. Thank you one and all.